right, fabulous September day here as we roll into the busy season here in the water and wastewater market. There's a lot happening. This is the Water Online Show, brought to you by wateronline.com. I'm your host, Travis Kennedy, along with my illustrious colleague, Mr. Kevin Westerling.
That's me.
That's you, Kevin. Welcome to the Water Online Show. That I'm glad you were able to make it in today. Had some traffic getting in.
Yes, it was a nightmare.
The blue route, for all of you that are that know Philadelphia, the blue route can be a little bit tough to navigate, especially when there's an accident. Kevin made it. We're happy he did, especially because of the guest that we have on here today.
Yes, sir.
So next month is October, and we want to talk about the big event that's happening in October and those that are bringing it to you. So the Water Environment Federation, many of you are familiar with. It's been around for almost 100 years, since 1928. And while it has a lot of prime directives and a lot of goals that it achieves year after year after year, one of its main directives is to make sure that access to clean water is available to everyone across the globe. And there's a lot of initiatives that they're currently working on, as they have over the course of the several past years, decades, to enable that to happen. One of the major steps that WEF took this year was naming a new executive director, who is a man that probably needs no introduction. He is a water and wastewater industry superstar, and we are absolutely thrilled to have him on the show. Mr. Ralph Exton, Executive Director of Water Environment Federation. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Water Online Show.
Well, thank you for having me. This is terrific, and it's such a warm welcome. It's wonderful.
Well, we certainly appreciate your time. I know you're busy because one of the largest events in the water industry is happening in just about 3 weeks. So we will get to that and talk through that. But before we get there, before we dive into that, I wanted to have our listeners and our viewers learn more about you. So could you talk a little bit about your journey in the water wastewater market and what ultimately brought you to the Water Environment Federation as their new executive director?
Okay, journey. You do realize, well, first of all, how much time do we have? Because, I do like to tell stories. So
let's do that. We love stories here. All of our listeners, and viewers love stories. So let's have them.
All right, so let's go back a ways. So when I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and in an area where floods were frequent, right? So and damaging. And so honestly, I had kind of a negative feeling towards water when I was growing up. So when it came time to get my education, I went to Penn State. I wasn't interested in water at all. I was focused on mechanical things and went into mechanical engineering, and was really interested in like cars and rockets and robots, traditional sort of mechanical engineering, sort of things.
Sure. It's a good school for engineering.
Oh yeah. It's wonderful.
Good school for everything. Good school for everything, but I won't dive too far down that rabbit hole. I could go on for days, but go ahead. All right, Ralph, I'm sorry.
No worries. But look, I was very fortunate because, for my first job, I was actually recruited into this really terrific, manager development program. It was 2 years of on-the-job training, 4 6-month rotations into various aspects, of the operations. There was a cohort of other engineers there with me as well. And if you want to talk about, jumping into the deep end from a water perspective, look, I graduated on a Saturday. I drove to New Jersey on Sunday. I started work that Monday morning in a manufacturing environment, getting my first assignment, right? And that first assignment, as part of this training program, was managing and operating water systems in an industrial environment. So, and that was water treatment, wastewater treatment, sludge handling, reverse osmosis, ion exchange, water recycling, boilers, cooling towers, the whole 9 yards, you name it, right? It was
really thrown into the fire there, it seems.
It was really amazing. But here's the thing. What most people don't know about me is, that first day on the job, when I was told, okay, Mr. Mechanical Engineer, you're going to do water, I was like, in the back of my mind thinking, like, what?
All right, I guess.
Why not? I thought there'd be robots. Like, where's the robots? It was
like the robot from Rocky IV, like all that. Like you thought, right? I'm with you.
It was actually, so it was, at first point was, nah, this isn't for me. But really, once I got my hands wet, so they say, in
Like it.
water, they would never be dry again. So look, I consider myself, super fortunate to have been in the right place at the right time. My career has literally taken me through some of the biggest water technology companies in the world, all great in their own right, GE Water, Veolia, Suez, Grundfos, the biggest and the best,
Sure.
all market leaders in their own right. And I had the opportunity to do, wonderful, amazing things, particularly on the M&A side of the equation and things like that. Actually, we should have a podcast about some of that at some point too.
Sure, absolutely.
So
Yeah, we'll sign you up right now. You're on record. So
But your question was more leading to, why WEF, why this role, why now?
yeah,
So just like everything else, it starts with sort of that timing issue. But for me, it wasn't, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't just because there was an opening for a job at WEF, because I wasn't looking for a job. It had more to do with what I would consider kind of a few shifts that I've made in my career over the years. And let me explain that a little bit. So early career type of thing. So as it relates to Water Environment Federation, directionally, WEF gave a lot to me, right? Because I was in learning mode. I was consuming information, trying to make connections, gain more experiences, across the water sector, and WEF was a great, component of that, But after a while, sort of that direction started to change a bit, and volunteering became more of a passion for me. So I started giving back to WEF in various ways. Became a member of their board. I served on and led board committees, finance, audit. I was the treasurer for 3 years. But even after being on the board, I continued to stay engaged, where I felt my skills and passions could best be used. And so I served on the board committee for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and on the Circular Water Economy Task Force. So, that sort of kept me engaged. But if you fast forward, to just kind of recently, I felt like I needed to go another direction, right? And directionally where I wanted to go was more around, serving the water sector more directly. Okay. What I mean by that is, look, the work I was doing in the private sector was definitely had a positive impact on water, but my contributions were more indirect. So I was serving the companies I worked for, right? I was working hard to make those companies successful. Those companies were serving their customers, and the work that was being done had a very positive impact on the environment, on the water. That's great. It's a good equation. But I wanted to be more fully dedicated and have more of a direct impact. And in my mind, with all the experience that I had with WEF, there was no better way to do that than to work with WEF in some capacity full time. So back to that timing issue, the timing was perfect, right? And here I am, and I'm very grateful to the WEF Board of Trustees. I'm very grateful to the search committee for the work that they did. I get to work with an amazing and talented staff at WEF. I get to be part of a community of over 30,000 members, and I get to feel the passion of sort of what I call the army of volunteers. Every single day, every single day. It's great.
I know I got a taste of that motive and drive to just help and serve not just the market, but everybody that's affected by it, which is almost everyone globally. I know that I was blessed enough to attend a movie premiere back in March, the sequel to Brave Blue World, which you can see on Netflix. And I know WEF was heavily involved in that. And that was just all about how we can provide water to those who need it and to make it a global evolution of access. So there's no doubt that that's the direction where WEF is going and has been going for a while. And they certainly have the right man for the job to sort of lead the way with your wonderful volunteers and even more amazing staff that you have there at WEF. Just a wonderful organization. So
they are incredible.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think WEF and the entire water industry should be grateful and thankful that you went on that journey, because of everything you bring to the industry. Speaking of which, I mean, you reference some of the many hats you have worn and do wear, like even outside of WEF. And I think this speaks to your passion for water on the whole. Can you kind of share some of the other affiliations and groups you work with?
Yeah, sure. They've all been, parts and pieces of the journey, I think, along the way. Years ago, I worked with the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. I helped co-found their Water Institute, and I was on that board for a number of years. A couple of companies that I've spent a lot of time with, as an advisor, Blue Tech Research, helping to really, study what's coming down the pike in terms of technologies and themes. Imagine H2O, likewise, supporting them as an advisor and a judge, bringing new startups and new technologies into the sector, things like that. But I also got great opportunities to spend time at really heavy duty think tanks focused on water, at the Johnson Foundation, Aspen Institute, really incredible experiences there. But I think, one of my favorites is also like jamming for water. I don't know if you've had a
Yep.
chance to attend, but
Absolutely.
at WEFTEC every year, they get a bunch of water people, but are also amateur musicians together and put on a charity concert, which, helps, benefit a number of charities focused on providing, safe water and safe sanitation to those that don't have it. So that is quite a hoot. I mean, that is a great event and a great cause.
Yeah, Water
Very
Online
cool.
just signed up to be a sponsor for Jammin' for Water. We are really looking forward to it.
Nice.
So are you playing an instrument? Are you doing like a guitar solo, like a Johnny B. Good Back to the Future style?
So, I have in past years, yes.
Okay,
This year I'll be on stage for one song, because the board of trustees, we always pick one song and honor our incoming, president. So Howard Carter, we're gonna do an honorary song for him this year. I can't say what it is. It's kind of a secret and a surprise.
You got to give
yes,
somebody something to look forward to, some mystery.
absolutely.
But speaking of WebTech, it is obviously WEF's biggest event. It's coming up next month, as it is in October every year, and it's going to be in New Orleans. So could you give us a preview? What should we expect? What surprises might be out there that you can maybe hint to without giving it away? But what should attendees look forward to with the event coming up in a few weeks?
Wow, there's so much.
Right.
It's hard to even think about where to begin. But as I said before, that the staff at WEF, the army of committed volunteers, they've done once again an amazing job putting together just like a world-class program, of education and events, and along with everything imaginable on sort of the trade show floor, if you will, including dedicated pavilions, demonstrations, learning opportunities, and of course, sort of the renowned Operators Challenge. We have learning sessions that explore issues like environmental justice and equitable, water management practices. And there's much more hands-on workshops, technical tours, sort of a more what we would consider a more engaged learning experience. And we're shifting towards more interactive, more inclusive approach, as kind of an important evolution than what we've done in previous years. And we've got like 155 new exhibiting companies, two new pavilions, including like the first time exhibitors pavilion, just to help people get involved and get companies engaged.
Cool.
And then the circular water economy pavilion, which is new this year, which is really hot topic. As always, innovation is a key theme, sustainability, SDG 6, so many things. And there's absolutely going to be something for everybody there for sure.
Yeah, it's always great, and it's great to hear that it's sort of so healthy and strong coming out of COVID and those lean years and all that. So that is terrific to hear. Is there a specific theme for this show or anything like new that you would like to highlight?
Yeah, the theme this year is leading the future of water. And I think it's great because look, we're facing significant challenges that we need to adapt to, right? So, aging infrastructure, silver tsunami, climate change. So, the the point of all that is we need adaptive solutions and technologies and initiatives, and that's what the team has been focused on. And we're working to ensure that water resources are protected not just now, but resilient for the future. And I think that whole concept of resiliency, is just throughout the event this year, because it's so critically important. So I think the theme really highlights the urgency of these efforts right now.
Well, as executive director, I'm curious to get your thoughts because there's just so much happening at WEFTEC, as there is most years, but it seems like there's even more happening this year. You mentioned obviously Jamming for Water. That's been going on for quite a while, but
Yeah.
there seems to be a lot of excitement around it this year. I mean, it's just like amped up, no pun intended, that it's just going to be an awesome event. The pavilion for first time exhibitors. I know the Water Online booth is going to be close to that pavilion.
Great.
And we're certainly looking forward to seeing new faces, which it seems like there's going to be a lot. But for the attendees that are going to be headed to the show in a few weeks, and perhaps those that are thinking about going and just need to get approval, and then are headed out to New Orleans, as executive director, what can you tell them about what you're most excited about for the upcoming?
There's so many things, but I'll start with this. My first WEFTEC was in 1988. Now I'm dating myself here a little bit. That's a long time ago, right? But I remember it, right?
Mhm.
So, look, it was nowhere near what it is today, but it made an lasting impression on me. And at the time, as a young engineer, it really opened my eyes to what I was focused on at the time, which was technology. But that just means that there's a little piece here for just about everybody. So, and when I look at what excites me is not just what I think I can bring to the table or influence when it comes to what WEFTEC represents. It's more of how the event influences me, and I think it's a lesson for everybody that it can influence you as well. Because I think of it more as WEF and subsequently WEFTEC has become the place to sort of convene the best and brightest when it comes to all things water and resource recovery and the like. So bringing this many passionate water people together is an inspiration in itself, right? So, and the ideas and the concepts that emerge from such an event, that shapes the direction that we go. So what I'm excited about is I get to be sort of the facilitator of translating that inspiration into action, right? And and into how we deliver the content and the experiences, for the future years, for the next X number of WEFTEC. So that's what I'm most excited about for sure.
It's great that you mentioned the word, mentioned the phrase, it's something for everybody. So it's almost like an all-inclusive thing. So no matter what your interests are, or what you're hoping to learn, or what you're hoping to hear about, learn about, watch, whatever it is, you're right in that there's something for everybody. That's how big this event has become. It's like a family reunion with 15,000 people. I mean, I don't know how many are attending. I'm sure it's
22,000.
22,000 family members. I mean, think about that. It's going to be a great time. I cannot wait for it to get going.
Yeah, me neither. And it's right around the corner. But for a second, beyond WEFTEC, because you're the executive director of WEF all year round, and you have a lot of stuff going on all year round. So do you want to talk about some of WEF's initiatives that they're tackling?
Absolutely. So look, WEF has a very ambitious strategic plan. Our activities are focused on implementation of the plan. So, as the executive director, that's a big focus on my mind throughout the year. Key themes that we're working on have to do with workforce. We mentioned silver tsunami. We talked about the need for training, for skill sets, but also leadership development. That's a big part of what we work on, day in and day out. The other thing is community, and by definition, that's really sort of how we engage and activate and support the water community as a whole. whether that's our membership or whether it's our partners, it's our volunteers, it's the sector itself. But making sure that there's, the tools and toolkits and ways and means of sharing the best practices and gaining access to the most, state of the art in learning and leadership development and technologies. And then there's the circular water economy, right? And this is it's an emerging, concept, but it's, really on making that change from linear thinking and approaches to, how we can work across utilities and industries and regulators, to what is best for the environment and obviously our most precious resource, which is water. And then beyond that, I'd say the other thing is really, our goals around global initiatives, right? So, we don't just serve, North America. We have a lot of activities going on around the world, and including with various partners, with other organizations, with other associations. So just expanding on directionally where we're going from a global standpoint as well.
You're a busy guy. I'm sure the team behind you is more than well equipped to handle these big initiatives that you have planned. I mean, I can't emphasize enough what a great team WEFTEC is, or I'm sorry, that Water Environment Federation is. There's a lot of initiatives going on, all for the betterment of society itself, related specifically to water and access to it. So we're excited to see how that unfolds. I do want to talk a little bit about technology and try and understand from your point of view, what role do you see technology playing to help address some of the concerns of the Federation's members?
Yeah, spending the majority of my career focused on water technology, it's kind of a near and dear to me. And no question, technology plays a huge part in what I would call the solution set. But we also need to address, skills. We need to address training, sort of that learning side of the equation, as well as leadership development, because, implementing technologies, at the end of the day comes down to, the right level of leadership to get things done. But a lot of that circulates around, the workforce and workforce development. There's just so many challenges right now, in the water space that require all of these things, like emerging contaminants of concern, PFAS and pharmaceuticals in the environment. Climate change and water are inextricably linked, right? And
Sure.
And so there's increased floods and more droughts and storm intensity and depleting aquifers, and technology plays a huge role in all of that. But as I said, there's also the workforce. There's the silver tsunami. There's how do we crack that nut in terms of like attracting a younger workforce into the sector and giving them the proper training and tools that they need. And then back to, what you guys do for a living, communication, right? Telling stories and getting the story straight, right? There's too much misinformation or lack of correct information, in the water space. And, the work that you are doing is, speaks to that as well. So yes, technology, of course, plays a super important role. But at WEF, we're looking at the solution set more holistically, if you will.
I mean, with it can't be understated that WEF is really sort of leading the way on many different fronts. You mentioned the silver tsunami, and you have a new workforce coming in full of Gen Xers and Gen Zers. And forgive me, but if I'm
Gen X, that's us.
That's us. We're not retiring yet, right? We're not retiring yet.
Not yet.
But, right. Yeah. But it's not just adapting to educating the new workforce coming in, but it's adapting to how they are going to want to work. So it's not the same blueprint that it was in the 80s or 90s in relation to, data acquisition or monitoring or whatever the case is. There's a lot of facets around that. And WEF is really leading the way in that, not just at the show, WEFTEC, but across the many mediums of which you get your messaging out. So without understating it, the Water Environment Federation is just an invaluable asset to the market. We are truly grateful that it is part of the fabric of the water wastewater market. So with that being said, I wanted to give you a chance to offer any final thoughts. We covered a lot of ground here. whether it's WEFTEC solutions, market, current state of the market, current challenges. What final thoughts would you like to leave our listeners and viewers with here before we let you go and get back to work and join your team?
Well, I can't give away all the secrets.
Right.
I need some element of surprise.
Exactly. One or two will be fine. Final thoughts.
I mean, look, we're incubating a lot of really exciting ideas and partnerships and technologies. But I kind of look at it this way. So convening, the water sector specialists and organizations to solve the challenges we just talked about is a great place to start, right? Sort of being that convener. And I think that WEFTEC is an ideal place to do that. And I do believe the notion that we're all stronger if we work together. And there's so much work to do in this space. But I'll give you a couple of examples here. So, like for example, digitization. It's a big, broadly used word, but some examples are how to use generative AI and/or sort of contemporary content delivery and sort of leadership learning in that particular space. I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and that's certainly something that we're working on. I think there's still work to do on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that focus and on being intentional to make sure that there's a sense of belonging. At WEF, we're making a lot of progress in this area. Proud to be part of that, but still a lot of opportunity to do as well. I mentioned circularity before, and look, it's a major topic, and I think it's critical for all aspects of the water cycle, which includes the byproducts of wastewater treatment. There's nutrient, there's energy, there's using the clean water from wastewater as a source water for various fit for purposes. And let's not forget biosolids and the importance of that and proper land applications. But to that point, though, I mean, making that change from linear to circular is critical. And while there may be some Northern European countries ahead of the curve on that, WEF is moving very quickly and becoming sort of a leadership voice and knowledge base in that area. Lot to do, a lot more to do for sure, but plenty of opportunities coming down the river. But as far as the final thoughts on all that, I haven't changed much in this regard. So it's really get involved, right?
Exactly.
If you're not a member of WEF, join up. If you want to be more engaged, be a volunteer, join a committee. If you don't think that's enough at that point, lead a committee. If you want to get really engaged, go to WEFTEC. It'll blow your mind.
That's a good first step.
And look, I believe this because this is what had happened to me. Going to WEFTEC is where you find your why when it comes to water, right? And sort of it's that tool that will help you connect water to something that you are passionate about, and the rest will fall into place.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you had talked about it, so the circular water economy, and how closely that's related to one simple word, and that is connection, right?
Yes.
What one of the main initiatives, as I understand it, that WEF is trying to do is connect all of us, find your purpose, plug in, and everybody's going to be working that much better for the betterment of society and for the human race as we work towards making sure that water is accessible for everybody. The first step,
100%.
as you just mentioned, get involved, and WEF is leading the way in that regard. So Ralph Exton, Executive Director of the Water Environment Federation, thank you so much for spending your time here with us. We really do appreciate it, and we cannot wait to have you back on the show and see how WEFTEC went and what Water Environment Federation has planned for 2025. So once again, thank you very much, Ralph, for joining us.
Thanks, Ralph.
Absolutely. Travis, Kevin, really appreciate it.
And to all of you out there, thank you very much for spending your time with us here today, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple iTunes, or watching on wateronline.com or on YouTube. Thank you for spending a part of your day here with us at the Water Online Show and Water Online. And we will look forward to seeing you next time.